What up, people? Coach V, New Breed Boxing. So, a lot of people have been asking me about intimidation in boxing and if it's effective and also how to deal with it. Whether you're the one giving or receiving it. There's, different, obviously, different aspects to it. So, in my opinion, if you look throughout history, there's been some fighting, some fighters are just known for their intimidating aura, so to speak. Mike Tyson, Marvin Hagler, James Toney, there's a lot of guys. To be honest with you, I think they beat a lot of guys, mentally, even Muhammad Ali. Mentally, they had them defeated before they stepped into the ring. And I do think that in some cases, intimidation is an effective psychological weapon that I would definitely recommend using it. If you know if it's gonna work, if you know you got somebody, you can kind of tell if you're dealing with a fearful person as an opponent and if you can get in his head or not. And on the flip side, if someone is trying to intimidate you, if they know they can, they're gonna do it. And especially if they're that kind of person, like there's somebody that likes to project their energy outward. And what is the definition of intimidate? To make someone timid or fearful. But what is intimidation when you really look at it? Like, what about these fighters, these Marvin Hagler and these guys like that? What about their energy was intimidating? Their facial expressions, their body language, their tonality, their speech, the words that they choose to say, threats maybe, stuff like that. In my opinion, though, from the fighter's aspect and from the coach's aspect, I think that actually backfires against the person initiating the intimidation when you're dealing with somebody who is mentally sound, somebody like a Muhammad Ali or, even back in the day, like an Oscar De La Hoya. I think he was a fearful guy. He said it himself. He was afraid before every fight, deathly afraid. And some people, I think fear is like a big motivator. And just because someone is afraid doesn't mean, I think people that are fearful can sometimes be the most dangerous. Because when someone's fighting out of aggression, once they lose that aggression, because it doesn't last forever, once their aggression kind of fades with, fatigue from the actual fight and it becomes more of a tactical, technical situation, because once you start actually fighting, intimidation and fear is not even a factor anymore. Like, if you ask any fighter before they step into the ring, the moments in the locker room, even from before they even get there, the night before the fight, they have, all kinds of visions of, all kinds of scenarios, and their mind might be playing tricks on them. And I think especially in the early stages of your career, intimidation can be an issue. Because I've seen some guys just freeze up and get rolled over because they were like a deer in the headlights. The situation, maybe it wasn't even the person they were fighting. They were intimidated by the whole event. Maybe they were fighting in the backyard of their opponent, so they saw they had a big support system there, and people were, disrespecting them. Stuff like that happens. And in my opinion, it's just something that comes with time. Like, you got to learn how to be mentally conditioned and inoculate yourself to these things. Because one thing I will say is, for example, like two guys I'll say that you could not intimidate. Well, and this is something you can clearly see in the way they come into the arena. Floyd Mayweather and Muhammad Ali, two very similar people mentally. Those guys know what they could do, and they know that no matter what, they're gonna show up and they're gonna make you respect them, regardless. And if not, they're also smart enough to know that if you're not gonna, get them out of there, they're just not gonna lay down. You're gonna have to take them out, basically. So they know that that's half the battle that they've already lost. So if your game is intimidating and you're fighting intimidating people, and you're fighting a guy like that, and you know it's not gonna work, so there goes that. The wind's out of your sails. So now it's technical. You know what I'm saying? So in my opinion, I just feel that intimidation, I can take it or leave it. I don't really think it's definitely not a game changer for guys that are elite fighters. Really, I think it's not even a factor, to be honest with you, for the more advanced, more elite fighters. I think, like I said again, that only comes into effect and is applicable to people who maybe doubt themselves or maybe really not that confident in the level of experience that they have or where they're at in their career. Or another thing is, when you do see a guy that is a somewhat established fighter with a little bit of experience coming up, going up against a guy that's on the top tier, a much higher level fighter, then maybe, a guy might reevaluate a situation. And maybe, you might see a moment of doubt in the guy that's, stepping up and rising to a new challenge. But in general, again, I just think that intimidation is a psychological weapon. When it can be used, employ it. You can tell when you can use it. So, whatever your situation is, it's a case-by-case deal. You could tell, once again, I think you can kind of get a vibe though from the person. Once you know who you're going to be fighting, you can kind of pick up on their energy, and you can feel the vibration in the air as to whether or not this person is mentally strong, basically, is what it comes down to. Because again, if you try to intimidate somebody who is mentally strong and they're skilled and they're in shape, I personally think they're just going to step their game up. And maybe they were just planning on beating you by staying a step ahead of you and just doing the minimum. But now that you got it, you got under their skin a little bit and you pissed them off, but not in a way that's going to distract them, in a way that's going to motivate them to really make an example out of you. So it goes both ways. Like everything else, everything is yin and yang. There's a give and a take. And I think, there's pros and cons to everything, and that's just what it is. I think once you realize you're not dealing with somebody that can be intimidated, I think at that point it becomes a waste of your energy, and it's going to take away from your actual performance. So use it up until a certain point, but again, it's definitely not an end all, and it's definitely not going to win the fight for you. Anyway, I hope you found this informative. And again, when I say not going to win the fight for you, intimidation alone, without being backed up by action, because if you try to intimidate somebody, I just got to say this one more time. If you try to intimidate somebody and they see that you're not backing it up with any kind of real threat of action, like you're not going to damage them with any of your shots, or they just know that you're not really in great shape, that's just going to become a confidence builder for the opponent. So anyway, like I said, I hope you found this informative. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, share. Go check out my Instagram, coach.v_. Till the next time, we up out of here. Ow.